Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Rich and Janet and the whole congregation for asking me to come and tell you my story, which I entitled The Bridge. And it's been really exciting for me to meet very committed, a very committed team, I would say, who set up the worship service. And well, I'll let you know a little bit about me, and hopefully I won't take too long of your time, because I like to talk. And CJ knows me here too, so we've shared some experiences together. But basically, the reason why I entitled this The Bridge is that over the years, I have noticed in looking back that all the different sections, the different chapters in my life were very closely connected. They were like threaded by a force that was above me and around me and in me. And I realized not too long ago that my mission in life is to be a bridge among people who are very different one from another, and to have the pleasure of debriefing for one group what the other group is like. And I always talk about trends and tendencies. I am a diversity consultant, and I'm passionate about differences and similarities, and debriefing with people what makes them alive, what lights their spirit, what their passions are, what brings them together as a group, and I learn from them, and it's nonstop. I do teach about cultures and conflict, and I have an intercultural class of 12 students this semester. And I keep learning from people. I do intercultural training for people who go abroad, Americans who go abroad, or internationals who come to the US. So I'm constantly debriefing one group for another. And my first, the first experience that I'll tell you about is when I came to the US 22 years ago to the University of Delaware to do graduate work. Because I am originally from Argentina, a country that is very multicultural, and my 4 ancestors were immigrants in Argentina, and nobody cared much about differences. Everybody brought, you shared food from so many different countries when you went to friends' homes, and everybody learned Spanish. Nobody forced them to, and they would also speak different languages in their homes. So it was pretty cool to see the mix that my friends would bring together when we communicated. So I got used to, because my city was mostly Italian, because of the ocean and fishing and all that. I got used to the sound of Italian, and I understand quite well. And but when I came to the University of Delaware, the first day on campus, I had to fill out a form identifying myself racially and ethnically, and I thought, what is this? I never thought that would count, because everybody was from somewhere else, where I came from, and nobody ever asked me where my ancestors were from. And so there were very few categories then. This is 22 years ago. And so it was white. I thought, I think I'm white. It was, I think that then it was black, not African American yet. I don't remember reading anything about Native American then. And then it was Asian, it was Hispanic, and it was other. And I didn't know what Hispanic meant, except for Hispanic literature that I had studied. And I thought, if I choose this, what kind of a label am I putting on my forehead? What will people expect of me to do or not to do? And I may get into trouble, I thought. And what do they mean by Hispanic? And so I checked off other, and I wrote there, Spanish, because that's what I could relate to. My ancestors were mostly from Spain. And so I thought, I need to check into this. And then one of my first trips was to DC. And I saw this this sculpture with 3 soldiers with a flag. One was African American, the other one was white, and the other one was Hispanic. And I didn't resemble the Hispanic at all. And so those were the things that put a seed in me of curiosity, and I thought I need to look into this. And I started teaching Spanish to faculty and staff at the University of Delaware. And one of my students happened to be an executive program coordinator, and he said, Maria, you put so much culture into your language class. How about putting a program on Latin American cultures for DuPont? And I said, sure. And so that's how it started, and then that expanded into intercultural training for people who were doing business with people from other countries or traveling abroad on assignment for 2-3 years. So I've had the pleasure of meeting people from all over the world, going to countries all over the world, and learning from them. And like 7 years ago, until 7 years ago, I would say, I was training someone from one country going into another, being from one culture. And as time went by, I would train people who were bicultural and tricultural, who spoke 3 languages in their own homes, going to a 4th country. And one of the people who had quite an impact on me was an American who was Syrian American. So he was bicultural and bilingual, and he had been doing business with China for 7 years, living there for a while, traveling back and forth to the US for a while. And he said to me one day, he was an engineer, and he said to me, you know, Maria, the most humbling experience I had in China. And I said, so what was that? And he said, the government had picked me up from a hotel and took me on an overnight flight to a different part of China to do business, because the people, in quotes, shouldn't know that there was business between the Chinese government and my company. And so they brought me on a charter flight overnight so nobody would see anything. And he said, and we were gathered at this very fancy restaurant, and so it was very, very fancy. The tablecloths were all the way to the floor, and it was so richly decorated and everything. And he said, and all of a sudden, something touches my foot. And we were having a meal together. And I thought, he said, are there rats here? What am I eating? Is this healthy? And so he got somewhat concerned. And then it happened a second time. And he said, what is this? So very gently, he lifted up the tablecloth, and there was a man kneeling down, polishing everybody's shoes. And he said, and this man was going from table to table, crawling, so he would never see the light. But that's what this man was making a livelihood of. And he said, and here we were, you know, a charter flight overnight. I was coming from so far away. Everything was so fancy, so rich. And here was this man who couldn't see the light. It was so humbling for me, he said. And then I've had so many different stories. Every person I've trained brought stories to me. So when I start a workshop, I generally say that I'm a story gatherer and a storyteller. And each one of us in this room has a different story to tell, and so many stories to tell. I've